Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jini and today I have my 2-month review of the Tamagotchi Paradise for you. But I still recommend it now. If you haven't seen my review of the Tamagotchi Paradise, it is here, but it is highly subjective and this video is supposed to be a more objective take on this topic. So without further ado, let's get started. Now we can get started. So the Tamagotchi Paradise officially came out on the 12th of July, I think on the 1st of August in the US. And I think there was a lot of hype around it. I myself was really excited for the release. Initially, I just loved the whole new concept, kind of being like a scientist and raising your own creatures on your own planet. And I also loved that they brought back the gene mixing feature. And I think the whole release was connected to a few issues here and there because most people were not able to get it on release day. So we had a lot of delivery delay issues and even scalper issues. Even now, until this day, I see Paradises being offered for absurd amounts of money. I can only say that it's worth it for the retail price, which is around 60 euros or I think like $70. Anything more than that I wouldn't pay for this device. So now, after more than 2 months of the release, we have a bunch of mixed opinions. I'll try to help you if you're still deciding if you want to have the Tamagotchi Paradise, if it's worth it, would I recommend it, or should you rather wait out for the next release. Let's talk about the main features the Paradise offers. So obviously we have the dial here on the Tamagotchi Paradise that we can use to zoom in, and in total you have 4 levels. Some people like the dial function, but I've also seen that some people really dislike it. For my part, I don't mind it. It's not like my favorite feature ever on a Tamagotchi. I've seen some people say that it feels kind of cheap or low quality. For me, it does not feel like different to any other part of the Tamagotchi Paradise, but I do get that some people say it's a little bit flimsy here. What I love about the dial function is it really simulates this feeling of zooming in on your Tamagotchi, like on a microscope. I think that's a very cute concept. And of course, we have the different biomes. We have the land, the water, and the sky biome. It just fits into this whole science concept, and they've also come up with new characters. So they did include some of the old school, like original characters, but they've also come up with a bunch of new characters, basically look like animals. I've also noticed mixed opinions on that. Some people really liked the original characters. That's something they're missing on the Tamagotchi Paradise. The thing they loved about the characters were that they're a little bit weird looking sometimes, very quirky. I totally understand that, but at the same time, I think you could argue that this whole concept is around biomes and you being a scientist who is observing these creatures. It makes sense that the Tamagotchi characters would look like animals. Of course, I love my original Tamagotchi characters, but at the same time, I can kind of appreciate that they tried out something new. The Tamagotchi Paradise is definitely less needy in the adult stages. And here again, it just all comes down to your own preference. Do you prefer a needier Tamagotchi or a less needy Tamagotchi? And based on this preference, you can choose the Tamagotchi that is for you. Also, they've reintroduced the very popular feature of gene mixing. Though very limited, they did decide to include it in this release. I think it's a nice addition and it really plays into this whole evolution line, and even though it's quite limited and in no way comparable to the gene mixing on a Tamagotchi Meets or On, I don't know, I appreciate it, it's a nice touch, but I also understand the people who say that it doesn't feel like they have used the whole potential of the gene mixing. I understand both point of views. Also, we got time-lapse stations with the Tamagotchi Paradise. Unfortunately, no time-lapse stations here in Germany, but I think they have a few in the US, in the UK, and in Japan, of course. And while it does make me a little bit sad that I cannot download the items and see the other characters from the time-lapse stations, I still think it's a nice addition. And maybe with the whole hype around the Tamagotchi Paradise, Tamagotchi and bipeds are now getting a little bit more popular. Maybe one day we'll get a time-lapse station here in Germany. I'd love it. We also got a bunch of new mini games. We have the very vintage and original feeling arrow game that I always lose. But they've included a bunch of mini games that are so much fun. I really enjoy playing them, especially because they have integrated a few difficulty levels for some of the mini games, which makes earning gotchi points to buy items and food a lot easier. Until this day, I still enjoy this feature. And a feature that I've also never seen on any Tamagotchi before is you're now able to travel to other planets. You can only get like 2 different items from the planets, and once you've completed them, characters from the planet you've visited will appear on your planet, which I think is very, very cool. I do feel like they could have expanded it a little bit with minigames specific to the planet. Maybe that will come in the future, who knows. They've also included the missions. It's similar to the missions or like badges you can get on the Tamagotchi Smart, but I do feel like they've executed it a lot better on the Tamagotchi Smart than on the Paradise. You only get money when you fulfill a mission. I also feel like they could have included different rewards for the missions. Now let's talk about the main critiques considering the Tamagotchi Paradise. So there are a bunch of small ones, like you can feed sweets without really having to face any consequences. And in previous releases, you would always have to face consequences, like your Tamagotchi getting sick. Also, you cannot name your Tama, you can only name the whole planet. And I get it, because I also really like to name my Tamagotchi. Sometimes I give them very, very stupid names, and it's just a lot of fun. That's definitely a feature that I'm missing too on the Tamagotchi Paradise. But then again, I do feel like they weren't really going for that personal bond feel with the Tamagotchi Paradise, if that makes any sense. But they really wanted us to feel like scientists who were observing these cute creatures on the planet. And that would explain why we cannot name our Tamagotchi. There are no jobs or accessories for a Tamagotchi. While I did enjoy this feature on the Tamagotchi Pigs and Pigs Party, but then again, to come back to this concept of being a scientist, it probably makes sense that your Tamagotchi doesn't really get a job because it's like a creature you're observing in the wild. So for me, it just makes sense for the whole concept, you know? Some people also pointed out that some minigames are only for raising the happiness of your Tamagotchi, and some games can only be played for earning Gotchi points, and that there are no games that can do both. I get that, because actually, when you think about it, it means that you have to put in twice the effort. By separating the minigames, we're able to play even if our Tamagotchi is asleep, because the minigames for raising the happiness, of course, will not be accessible, but the minigames for earning Gotchi points are still accessible. But in order to do that, they had to separate the minigames for their respective functions. I have seen a few posts about a certain glitch, which is about the egg not hatching. Most of the releases, so you'll have a few glitches here and there. And now the biggest critique that I have noticed is that, especially in the adult stages of the Tamagotchi, it feels like there isn't a lot you can do, and that the gameplay can get repetitive fairly quickly. And I totally get that, because when my Tama is an adult, I don't really do a lot with it anymore. But at the same time, I also just love observing it, interacting with the items I've played on the field. But I also understand if people say it's just lacking the late game content. I think this point, and actually all the other points as well, depend on your preferences and from which device you're coming from, if at all. So if you come from a generation 1 or 2, then the Paradise will feel content rich. But coming from a uni, the Paradise may feel really limiting. But in general, you could say that amongst the modern Tamas, there is less to do in the adult stages on the Tamagotchi Paradise. For me, this is actually a plus, because I do not have to shut it off and do not have to worry about it passing away. Now let's come to the positive aspects, the features that got praise on the Tamagotchi Paradise. One thing I noticed is that many people like that you can decide when you want to send your Tamagotchi to go to sleep or when you want it to wake up within a set time frame. Another feature I think most of us really appreciate is once you've raised an adult Tama, it will not just disappear, but you actually get to see the adult Tama playing in the background, interacting with the items that you've placed. And this is just so charming for me. That's probably one of the favorite features for me. So the overall impression is that still, after more than 2 months, I still love it. I've put it away after like 1.5 months, and I just restarted it and totally fell back in love with it. Yeah, it's important to remember that the concept of this Tamagotchi was this whole science approach, that we are scientists, we're taking care of creatures in the nature, observing them through our microscope. So all the features that you may feel like are lacking may be explainable by the concept that they've thought out for this release. And maybe they've also noticed that the target group is not only children anymore, but more and more adults are getting into this hobby and they tend to have busier schedules, so that may explain why they have designed the Tamagotchi to be less needy in the adult stages. I wouldn't recommend the Tamagotchi Paradise to everyone, but if you prefer a less needy Tamagotchi, or if you're okay with not having like the very personal bond with the Tamagotchi, the Paradise is probably a great choice. And while it may not be the perfect virtual pet by any means, I can appreciate the concept they went for, and I can appreciate the Paradise just for what it is. So to conclude, each device has aspects I love and aspects I don't love as much. I do have to admit that I was also a little bit disappointed with some of the features and how they were executed, because I also feel like some features weren't as sophisticated as on other Tamagotchi releases. But then again, I can also come back to the Tamagotchi Paradise if I'm looking for this easygoing gameplay, for the cute new characters. Yeah, and just like having my own little group of cute creatures that I have taken care of and just observed them in their natural habitat. I'm really that kind of person that just appreciates every release for what it is. If I'm being honest, it's very hard for me to hate a model. Even if I'm not really into it, I can still just say, okay, apparently it's not for me, because I know that some other people will really love it. It's just maybe not for me. They all serve a different purpose or target group, and I think that's important to consider. Not every model is supposed to be the perfect Tamagotchi, but rather they try to cater to different target groups and different concepts. So at the end, I don't have a definite answer if I would still recommend it now after like 2 months. It all boils down to your own preferences, because I would hate for anyone to go out and buy the Paradise and regret it because they were all hyped about it. Because sure, I love it, but another person may hate it and regret buying it. And I don't want to be the person to like pressure you into buying something just because I love it, because I know we all have different preferences. For me, for example, sometimes I really want to feel this personal bond with my Tamagotchi, and then of course I will not go for the Tamagotchi Paradise, but maybe for the connection or for the Tamagotchi Pix, just for another release that can offer these features. But sometimes I just want a very easygoing device that I can just have running like in the background, you know, and then the Paradise would be the perfect choice. As I've said in my ranking, it's beautiful that every Tamagotchi can be the favorite of someone. If the Tamagotchi Paradise is not for you, that's okay. You're not missing out, you're not getting it. The Tamagotchi Paradise may just not be the version for you. Maybe the next release will be. The next year is the 30th anniversary of Tamagotchi. Yep, in 1996 the first Tamagotchi released, and I'm so excited to see what they will come up with. Will it be a different version of the Paradise, or will it be an entirely new model? In case they will come up with a new anniversary Paradise release, I just wanted to make this video so that you can decide, if you haven't gotten it yet, if it is for you, if it's worth waiting, if it's worth purchasing. So that wraps up this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed watching it. Thank you guys so much. Take care and hope to see you soon. Bye!